Welcome to another edition of Outside the Playbook. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
We're gonna be talking about the new NBA 2K22 ratings that just came out. There's a lot of discussion about this over the past couple weeks, and just looking at this top 10 list, you got LeBron, KD, Giannis, and Steph Curry, all with the highest ratings on the game at 96. You got Kawhi, the Joker, the MVP, and then you have Joel Embiid, all at 95, and you have Doncic, James Harden, and Damian Lillard, all at 94. I have a few opinions about this. A couple interesting notes, especially, but what were some of the things that stood out to you on this list?
Yeah, starting from the top four, I don't know if I would have put Giannis at a 96. I think in light of, him winning the title and so on and so forth, I think that definitely held an influence. But I personally, nothing against Giannis. He's a phenomenal player. I just would not have put him on the same level as LeBron and KD. You can shake your head. You can put your hand on your face. I may get some hate in the comments and so on and so forth. Get at me. My opinion doesn't change. I would not have given him a 96. That's my first beef with the top four. Maybe a 90, good old 94, maybe 95. But to put him on the same level as LeBron and KD and Steph, I don't really know. But anyway, besides that, I think Nikola Jokic, I think that's another one that ratings were a bit situational. Him winning MVP, I think, had a lot to do with that. I wouldn't necessarily have put him above the likes of Luka and James and Damian. I personally don't think that he's a better player than those names. When you think, yes, he has a great skill set as a big man, and yes, he did win MVP. But just comparatively speaking, it just seems a little weird to see his name listed above those other ones. But other than that, those are kind of my main takeaways. I mean, Kawhi's season, I think whether or not he's really a 95 on the game is kind of debatable if we're just going off of the most recent season and postseason especially. So, but my main two comments are regarding, Giannis and Jokic comparatively to where they rank with other players on that list.
Honestly, bro, everything after Giannis got 2-0. Everything, literally everything, every single word. Let me put to you this, okay?
I stand by my opinion.
This is what is happening, okay? Everybody looked at Steph Curry's year last year. They seen what Giannis did in the finals. They seen what KD did coming off of injury. They seen what LeBron looked like before his injury. But they also know that LeBron won a championship when he was last seen at his healthiest, okay? 2K is basically saying, okay, these are the four best players in the league. We really don't know who to choose as our number one, so we're just going to give them all the same exact rating. No matter, irregardless of if, a couple of them should be a 98, 97. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this might be the highest rating on 2K that we've seen in, maybe ever. So I just think they're just at a crossroad. They're most definitely not going to put anybody above LeBron because, like I said, last time we seen him fully healthy, he won a championship. He wasn't that last year, so they really aren't too quick to put anybody above him. But looking at the finals run that Giannis had, I mean, people have remarks about the Miami series and the Nets series, and okay, they weren't at their best. Those teams were not at their best, but he still dominated each matchup. He still went toe to toe with KD, so to speak, not exactly guarding one another, but big time play after big time play. They went toe to toe in that aspect with the help of Chris Middleton. But majority of the work was done by Giannis. I think you have a two-time MVP. This is all the last 3 years. A two-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and then he goes out, gets a Finals MVP and a championship. I think this was a situation where he deserved at least to be a step above LeBron, KD, and Steph. Just off of those things. Not saying that he's the best player in the league, but I mean, this is, first of all, these ratings are subject to change as soon as the season starts and everybody gets into the groove of the season. You know, they're going to change, but I think Giannis deserved at least a 97 or a 98 just based off his 3-year run. Like I said, you're not upseeding LeBron, but this is based off of what we last seen from these players from last season. I think Giannis should get the nod, but Kawhi, I don't know if he gets that 95 because your best ability is availability, and you know that's not his strong suit. So, I mean, on top of the fact that we just found out a couple months ago that he had a partially torn ACL or MCL, one of the two. So 95 is a little bit high. Joel Embiid, I guess I'm okay with it, but I wouldn't, based on, you know, what his past 2 seasons have looked like and what he looked like last year, I'm not going to put him above Dame. Maybe swap those two. Dame gets a 95, he gets a 94. James Harden was injured and out of shape most of last season, so we didn't really see peak James Harden, so I guess a 94 is fair based on what he showed us, not you know, what is factual or what is. It's just, you know, what we seen from him last season. We got maybe I guess you could say we got 94% of the real James Harden last year. We didn't get to see the full 100 because he had health issues, Kyrie had issues, KD had issues. So I mean, for the most part, I'm okay with it. But like I said, I mean, just Giannis. I would like to see him maybe a step ahead, Kawhi a couple of steps back, and Dame and Joel swap places. One of the interesting things that I sent you a couple photos of some of the ratings that came out. All right, if you look, you'll see a Zion Williamson. Okay, they got him at an 89. They also have Anthony Davis as an 89. How do you feel about that?
I think AD. I think you bring up a good point when you discuss the others, is that it's very situational. So we know the caliber of player that AD is. So is 89 low? I would definitely argue it is. You know, AD has been in the conversations around best player in the league by a lot of analysts. You know, he's been a name drop in those conversations.
When healthy.
When healthy. That's a good point. When healthy. So, you know, to have him anything lower than a 90 just seems wrong. But again, it's situational. So we saw a disaster of an AD, for lack of a better term, because he was not healthy. So I do think that played a significant role in that 89, because he just was a shell of himself when he tried to come back and help out the Lakers. So am I necessarily surprised that it's that low? I am. I wouldn't have thought they would have given him below a 90 because of it. So in that I am surprised, but I'm not surprised by the fact that he is lower than what he normally would have been. I definitely would have given him, at minimum, a 94. And that's, for me, that's at minimum comparatively to the other players.
Yeah. And like we both remarked that when healthy, you know, all these are subject to change. 89, that could be fair for Anthony Davis, like you said, because he was not healthy. All right. When healthy, I too have him in that Kawhi Leonard, Joker, Embiid mix with the 95s. And Damian Lillard should be a 95 as well. Zion, I feel like, even though we're going into his third year, by far the most dominant person inside the paint, led the league in field goals near the rim, dunks, and all that. I think I would at least give him a 91. At least, because I mean, we've seen him go against Giannis. We've seen him go against Anthony Davis, Ron. I mean, you name it. The bigger the star, he came to play every single game. And physically speaking, that is a grown man. Like, he may be, 20 years old? That's a grown man. Like, I mean, the size of I mean, we've said the same things about LeBron. The size of Karl Malone, but he can get up and down with the best of them, like a Westbrook or a Giannis. The speed and quickness, that's a scary combination. If he starts to expand his range a little bit, we can see him creeping up into the top 10 on this list within the next 3 years. But I mean, right now, I think you can make the case that he deserves to be in that 90s club. He's hanging on by a thread with the 89, but I think that's like, the same thing in real life. 2K is saying, we don't want to give him that just yet. You don't want to thrust him in the stardom. I mean, I guess Doncic, this was Luka's, after Luka's third year. We're going into Luka's fourth year, right? Because he came out a year before Zion. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, you can make the case that within the next couple of years or so, he's for sure going to be in that top 10 on this list. Other interesting thing would be, who do you bump off of that list if you're adding Zion within the next couple of years? I mean, do we see a case where James Harden falls off or Joker falls off of this list? I'm sure it's going to be like somebody in the comments or somebody saying that I'm crazy, but do we see LeBron, KD, any of the older guys falling off this list? I mean, I think LeBron, KD, Steph, they're the oldest players on this list. I mean, do we start to see them trickle off in the next 3 years? Who knows? We got a 90 overall from Jason Tatum. I'm okay with that. I think he's going to, especially after this Team USA run, everybody, especially the younger guys, they always come back a little bit better and in better shape, a little more pep in their step. So I look for guys like Levine, Jason Tatum, Chris Middleton, Holiday. I look for a lot of those first-time Olympians come back with a little bit something extra. So I'm okay with Jason Tatum having a 90. Let's see. Oh yeah, so that was my point. Jason Tatum had a 90. Bradley Beal has an 89. You have Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum. You can pick either person to be your leading man. All right, lead your friend. Who are you taking in that scenario?
That's a tough choice. That's tough. As an overall player, I like Jason Tatum over Bradley Beal. But I think that Bradley Beal is a slightly better scorer than what Jason Tatum is. I think Bradley Beal's numbers, prove that. So it's tough. Honestly, it's a toss-up between either one. I think that Jason Tatum is a more complete player than Bradley Beal is. Though, like I said, I can't deny Bradley Beal's scoring ability. I would just take Jason Tatum because I feel like he is more complete overall as a player.
Yeah, and I'm taking the whole Washington thing out of it. I mean, they've had horrible teams for the majority of the time that Beal's been there, and when him and John Wall were both healthy, they were a good team, pretty decent team, a playoff team. But I mean, you can't go wrong with either one. But for some of the reasons that you said, Jason Tatum being a more complete player, I think they can both score. They can both shoot the ball. I think Beal does have the nod in the three-point range, being a knockdown jump shooter since, going back to high school. He's always been able to shoot the ball, but his scoring has gone to another level the past couple of years. I just like the way he plays the game. Sometimes it may seem a little out of control every now and then, but it's more so when he's doing a lot of heat checks. But I think he's a great scorer. My only issue with him and guys like him, Zach LaVine and Devin Booker up until, this last playoff run, we'll see what he can do, but going forward. But one of my gripes against them was like, you're a great scorer, you can get 30 any night, but is that going to be a 30 points that's going to get your team over the hump? Or is it just going to be a 30 points and a losing effort night in and night out? So Devin Booker's kind of dispelled that a little bit with the addition of Chris Paul, the maturity of that team. But, you know, like I said, when John Wall was healthy, Bradley Beal proved that he can score 30 in you know, in a playoff series against good teams. He can get the job done. So I would like to see him on a better team in the near future. Possibly Miami, who knows? The Clippers have always thrown their name in the hats just to not make a move, so we'll see what happens with them. The Lakers, they're just gathering all the Infinity Stones, so that's a possibility. We'll see what happens with them too. If they decide to call Washington, I know that Rajon Rondo just got bought out by the Memphis Grizzlies, so he's heading back to LA. So they're basically just getting the band back together and adding more weapons on top of that. So they probably look poised for a championship run. Speaking of the Lakers, Russell Westbrook is listed at, I think he's listed at an 84. 2K.
Yeah. Down, I didn't understand that. I mean,
How?
you're talking about a player that was, I mean, an MVP just a few seasons ago, and arguably he has not diminished in terms of his production. So,
Not even a little bit.
No. So I think it does. I think that supports the point that we made earlier about things being situational. You know, I look on the overall list, and I mean, with the exception of Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, they were technically, you know, in the play-in tournament, but everybody else was from, you know, legit playoff teams. And so, you know, the other factor is to what extent does the team standing or the team status impact the overall rating of the player. So I think going back to Zion, I think maybe that is why he was given an 89 and maybe not pushed into that 90. If New Orleans had been in the playoffs in the West, would that have made a difference? You know, I think that arguably would have maybe caused Zion's score to possibly breach that 90, you know, benchmark maybe. So I don't know. Maybe the only thing I can think of for us is maybe just looking at Washington as a team. But I mean, I that's the only explanation I can come up with. But the fact that, you know, former MVP who has not lost a step since, you know, 2017 when he won it, to be given an 84, I thought that was ridiculous, to be honest.
I think it's ridiculous, but let me put, because people think it's just stat padding, okay? Stat padding is when the game is already out of reach, out of balance, but you see a guy chasing assists, you see a guy chasing rebounds, or trying to score as many points as he can, and they're down by 20, 25, maybe 30 at that point. You see a dude just jacking up, trying to get to 50. Taking into account his triple doubles, okay? If I'm not mistaken, when Russell Westbrook gets a triple double, I think it is some crazy record, win and loss record, but I believe he's well over 70%, 75% win percentage. So that means if he gets a triple double on a given night, it's a rarity that they lose the game. When he had that 40 plus triple doubles, that last year in OKC, when he had that round of triple doubles, I think they only lost maybe 3 or 4 games out of the 40 plus. That's not, I mean, then you look at the season he had in Washington, they start off horrible. He brings them all the way back from the 14th seed, and they end up in the play-in tournament. Now you got to be between the 7 and 10. If I'm not mistaken, they landed in 8th, 9th, one of those 2 spots. But they ended up in the play-in all the way from the 14th spot, and he averaged a triple-double for the whole season. Then on top of that, he became the all-time leader in triple-doubles, and he also set a record for the Washington franchise in triple-doubles. all-time record. So I mean, I don't know where this 84. To put it in context, they gave LaMelo Ball a 84, and this is his going to his second year. He missed a part of the season and still got Rookie of the Year. So that tells you what they think of him. But it's disrespectful in the same sense that you would give Russell Westbrook that same rating after all he's done over the past 5 years. I mean, 4 out of the 5 years to average a triple-double. I mean, albeit he's played on some bad teams, but he's gotten them all to the playoffs. So, and then on top of that, the year before when he was in Houston, and everybody likes to rag on that and talk about how he couldn't get it done with James Harden, and, you know, how he, you know, hindered James Harden from having the same type of performance he had with Chris Paul and when Dwight Howard was there and all those guys. Well, if you look at it, Russell Westbrook had the most efficient year of his entire career, and I believe he averaged somewhere around 26.7 rebounds and 7 assists a game, and he shot 40 something, I think like 45% from the field or something like that. So he's even more efficient, still contributing on a nightly basis next to another triple-double threat. They get to the playoffs, albeit they lose to the Lakers, I think, in the second round. But, I mean, I think somebody needs to start telling 2K, NBA analysts, you know, sports media in general, ESPN, Fox Sports, Undisputed, First Take. I think it's about time everybody put some respect on Russell Westbrook's name.